All right. For some reason, we're going to keep going with Divine Right. Jim Lee's kind of first real kind of venture into writing exclusively himself a comic book series that is something that is his alone. Um, I have made no bones about the fact that when I started reading this series or reviewing it for the channel, my memory of it was like, it's not that great. I collected it because at the time Jim Lee had been like my favorite artist at forever, and I loved everything he did, but I was having a hard time acknowledging that this stuff is not that great. Excuse my sneezing ass. But the story, I mean, like, none of the Wildstorm stuff in the early years were that great. Nothing Jim Lee had a hand in writing with Brandon Choi was any good. And then Jim Lee wants to take over and write his own thing. I respect it. He's like, I want to do my own thing. Um, I want to have had the opportunity to write. I think it went on for like 12 or 13 issues, something like that. But Jim Lee wanted to write his own story, and I respect it. And it's not god awful horrible. It's not embarrassingly clunky. Like you should hang your head. It's just so by the numbers, and it feels like it's trying to mimic and reproduce the cadence and language and vibe and feel of Claremont X-Men, but with Jim Lee's sense of humor, which very rarely works. I would say the humor in these things doesn't work at all. It doesn't click for me. It feels so disconnected and out of touch. But there's a joke here or there that actually kind of land, and there's at least one I remember in this issue that I'm like, okay, that was actually kind of funny. Not like, oh my god, brilliant, but I'm like, okay, that one worked. But yeah, it's not great. It's not Jim Lee doing anything artistically unique. Like, this is just him in his like advanced boring stage. We'd seen him come up through like early Punisher, and then he jumped onto Uncanny X-Men and produced the best work of his career. And then he wanted to do regular X-Men. Then he jumped over to Wildcats, which was okay. And he did some Deathblow work, which I thought looked really good artistically. Story-wise, sucked. And then he just kind of developed this art style that is kind of his Fantastic Four, Heroes Reborn style, his Divine Right style, and the stuff that he does currently at DC on Batman. That's like it's not bad by any means, but it just lacks the raw kind of interest and power. And I don't know what it is. There's something about his older Uncanny X-Men work that was just so much more interesting. And he gained something, but he lost something. And what he lost, it's kind of that special, unique flavor that made his work just stand out. Now it's just okay. But of course, this is Jim Lee we're talking about. It's kind of dumb to sit here and say that Jim Lee's work is just kind of okay, considering how damn good, how advanced, how high he is on the ranking system of comic artists. He can do it all. It's just, for me, on a personal level, it's not that good the way it used to be. And that's really unfortunate. I'm not going to recap too much of the story. Boring, everyday guy got some kind of superpower god code information downloaded accidentally into his brain. And now everyone wants him because everyone wants to and needs to control him because of the god power in his brain and the abilities that he will eventually develop. And so he's already ran into multiple like boring as hell looking lizard monsters and cybernetic soldiers and weird creatures that are, I hate to say again, fairly typical Jim Lee boring designs. I've always said that Jim Lee cannot design anything interesting for anything. It just, I don't like his design sense. It just doesn't work. Jim Lee works best when you take a design that already exists and he'll draw the best version of it. But when given the opportunity to like design something new from scratch, I don't think he has the design sense. It's too complicated and too over-designed and boring. But anyway, we got our main hero, Max Faraday, and his creepy, cliche-ridden partner in crime, the guy that's like always cracking the jokes that's just not funny. Devin is his name, and then of course you got the hot girl that's his the main guy, Max Faraday. That's his sister. They just went through some shit in the previous issues, fighting monsters and all kinds of stuff, and they got away from the monsters. But then, of course, right there at the end of the previous issue, Lynch and Caitlin Fairchild from Gen 13 show up. And it's amazing how uninteresting the Gen 13 characters become when J. Scott Campbell's not drawing them. I say that every time. These characters are not that interesting, specifically the Gen 13 characters. They're not interesting once J. Scott Campbell's not doing it. And now they just kind of become cliche action heroes that I've seen a million times. Lynch kind of looks like a cross between Wolverine and Clint Eastwood. And Caitlin Fairchild, again, Jim Lee draws hot girls. And she's the most interesting character out of the Gen 13 group. So I'm glad it's just these two. But they showed up, and of course Lynch is attached. You know, he's got a history with the monsters and the power code source that's downloaded into his brain. And once he heard that it's out, everything is terrible, and we got to go fix it. So he brought Caitlin herself, showing up to talk to Max, and they're, well, hey, you got this information downloaded into you, but the problem is, are you the only one who's been exposed to the equation? And they're like, well, my buddy here, Devin, he only saw but a glimpse of it. But then, like, well, anybody else? And so Max is kind of like, well, I did forward one of the unopened files to my girlfriend. That is an element that's been built in these comics where Max has a girlfriend who's online and he's never actually met. And he said he sent some of this information to her. And Lynch is like, of course, he's like, well, that put her at risk, you dumbass. You know, now not only are you in danger, but you endangered her. Like, oh shit, hold on, wait, we've got company. So, double page spread. And this is an Image comic. This is printed in... This is 97. God, I keep forgetting how old this is. When I think of Divine Right, I didn't think it was in the 90s. But, I mean, it's just not the time frame I thought that it was, but here it is, 97. Good God, I've only been out of high school for 2 years. But a Jim Lee comic, double page spread, all new characters back here combined with a few that we already know, and this at best is just kind of okay. There's nothing dynamic or interesting. They're just standing here. I'm sorry, I don't know what I could say that could or should be done that would make this better, but for Jim Lee, God of all God amongst artists, in my opinion, when he was on X-Men, like, who could do no wrong, I'm like, I've never seen a more boring double-page spread in my life. Now, granted, the character's just standing here. We're not supposed to be fighting, but it's just... you know, and then all the designs on these characters, I've said this before. Tobruk back here, boring. Exotica, like, she's only kind of interesting because she's a hot girl drawn by Jim Lee. She's got long hair and big tits with a lot of skin showing and a cape, so she could kind of look sexy and visually interesting, but as a character, boring. This guy is Dr. Strange Gambit. He's kind of a combination of those two characters. And then you got Christine Blaze. She's a soldier who used to work for Lynch, and she was killed violently in issue 1, but then brought back to life. But then her body was left on the slab as she also walked out of the room, that she didn't notice that her body was still there. That's a mystery that will be paid off later. So lots of new characters. Lynch, Fairchild, Tobruk, Brandy, I think his name is, Christine Blaze, Exotica, and of course Max Faraday, Devin, and his sister, whatever the fuck her name is, I can't remember. Story and pictures, Jim Lee, ink, Scott Williams with JD, and then colors are Joe Chiodo with Martin Jimenez. But now all these characters have to get together and work together, and probably not going to happen very easily. Max Faraday's like, look, we're all getting together. We're all trading quippy kind of dialogue to each other, but we got to go help my girlfriend. Like, if she's in danger, we need to go help her. And Christine Blaze, she's like, oh, forget her, kid. Love stinks, right? And Fairchild's just kind of looking, and Lynch is kind of just looking. And this guy, Brandy, he says, enough of this foolishness, Blaze. The forces of the wrath will surely return. And Faraday says, dude, can you say anything but that? I think he's repeated that in a previous issue. And so, of course, Blaze and Lynch get together, and she's like, you promised you'd get me out. You wouldn't leave me hanging. And Lynch is like, yeah, well, things aren't always what they seem. Things were kind of hot, and I couldn't get to you. So she socks him in the face. So, of course, these former teammates are going to have struggles with each other. And I feel like this is Jim Lee trying to do some kind of like interesting storytelling, cinematic thing, just getting shots of all their faces and all their expressions. They're all just kind of blank expressions, with the exception of at least Fairchild kind of like looking off to the side. You know, he's trying to do stuff he's not good at. So, yeah, she socks him in the face. And characterization I kind of like. Fairchild, who's a super strong badass, she just sees her mentor knocked to the ground. She says, nice sucker punch, lady. You just started a fight you can't finish. I like how she's like, yeah, I'm about to fucking beat ass on these guys. Let's go. And the guy, Dr. Strange Gambit, he manifests an energy glowing dagger. And of course, he's like, discuss it as much as you like, but we will have the chosen one. He has to come with us. He's only safe with us. So everyone wants him. And they just kind of yell at each other about who's going to take Faraday, because everyone thinks they know what's best for Max Faraday. All I know is I'm kind of bored already. But then Faraday, after they keep bitching back and forth at each other, suddenly a voice says, hey, cut the horse crap. That's enough, you two. And Faraday's standing there. And again, this is a Jim Lee drawing. This is supposed to be just a college kid, but the dude is fucking jacked like a bodybuilder. But that's every comic book character, so I guess I can't hold that against him. It's not a very interesting pose. What happened to like every page Jim Lee would draw in the Uncanny X-Men days? Every page, every pose, every shot was just so fucking great. And why is everything so much less interesting? I would submit a possibility is that he's doing the Image comic style where every page is blown up to have big anchor images. This page is just literally, I was going to say 2, but I guess it's 3, where it's just one giant shot of head shot of girl, head shot of guy, and then giant cool shot of guy, and then close up on the eyes, and then close up on hot girl's face and big shot on the guy. Like, I feel like Jim Lee's going to work better if he's forced to do more multiple panels on a page and not try to like wow us with this big artistic, shockingly dynamic, exciting art that's kind of more boring than his older stuff. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's what I kind of feel is working better. If he's has more panels per page, because when I'm getting big shot on after big shot on multiple pages, it just kind of becomes a pinup book and less interesting. But when he does actual storytelling, it gets a little bit more visually interesting. I don't know. I'd be interested to know what anybody kind of thinks. The point being, he's standing there, he's manifesting these powers intentionally, I think for the first time. And so he gives a speech like, hey, dude, he said, a wise dude once says what's done is done. That's Faraday's law number 88. Leave the past be, you two. I thought all you control freaks were here to help me. My life is completely screwed up now because of some stupid, botched up secret operation. No home, no job, no ride, and pretty soon, no girlfriend. You guys are forgetting a simple fact here. I'm the one with the power, and trust me, I know how to use it. I'm like, what? I get the point, but I feel like the scripting and the dialogue is just awful. And that's Jim Lee writing it. It's not, to be fair, as far as I know, Jim Lee's never tried to write a comic book again. He might have a hand in plotting a thing. He's like, here, this is what should happen. But the beat by beat dialogue, as far as I know, Jim Lee's never done that again. Thank Christ. It's not embarrassingly awful. It's just so cliche, it makes me go to sleep. And then I don't mind this shot of the girl's face. She's kind of like, hey, no one's questioning the all power you have, but my name is Exotica, and like all of the fallen assembled here, we all each have a fraction of the power that flows through you. This is the covenant which bonds us to you in faith and in service. Oh my God, shut up. Basically, we need to help you. You need to get a grip. You need to calm down. and we need to work together. And he's like, all right, I just want my life back. And they're like, all right, we can do this. It's just, and Max is like, it's overwhelming. And Fairchild says, maybe we should just take a little time out. Maybe we should just stop for a minute. And they're like, okay. So Fairchild takes out the humans, like Faraday, his sister, and Devon. So the alien or whatever superhumans and Lynch can work out their problems. So all of this so far is kind of fucking boring. And then come kind of the one of the few moments in this comic series that I legitimately have always remembered. We'll get to it here in the next page. But so Fairchild's out there talking with these three, and these are the only kids that probably have anything to really relate to each other. Because again, these are just college-age kids, and that's Fairchild too. She started out the comic as a nerdy, wafy little girl in college, which is what she's explaining right here. How she's like, I was this nerdy little skinny little bookworm, but then these powers got activated. She turned into a 7-foot tall sex goddess with giant tits, and now she's fighting monsters and aliens and all kinds of cool shit. But at her heart, she's still just a nervous kid in college. Art-wise, that is one of the ugliest, worst female faces I've ever seen Jim Lee draw. It's just kind of fine, but I'm like, he's drawn so much more attractive female faces in profile. That one does not work at all for me. And again, I'm only ranking this against Jim Lee as being, he is the artist on the #1 selling American comic book of all time, and he's got multiple highs in a career. He drew X-Men, the highest, the premier title, and then he got to launch his own X-Men title. And then he got to go form Image Comics and launch his own line of books that he owns and directs. Wildcats and Stormwatches and Death Blows and all that type of shit, which is all kind of boring. He got to do that. Then he got to go back to Marvel and draw the Fantastic Four. He got to write his own series. He's had every possible career mega milestone that any creator could ever fucking hope to have in their life. He's had every one possible. Like, he gets hired on, he gets to draw comics. So he starts out doing Punisher, then at some point he jumps straight to fucking X-Men. Like, that is the book. That's the shit that makes you the big bucks. And he drove that to the top of the sales charts. Then he gets to draw a brand new X-Men. Then he gets to form his own company and drive the success of his own creations and his own financial windfall because he owns it all. Then he gets to go draw the Fantastic Four for a $2 million payout. Then he sells his company and he gets to go be creative director or whatever the fuck it is he does at DC and draw any Batman book he fucking wants. Like, Jim Lee's had it all. So when I sit here and critique his work, I'm balancing that against the fact that he's done top tier level everything, and therefore he's got a lot of work to critique against that he's done better than this fucking face. That's a long way of saying that is an ugly face. Any other artist pulls that off and it might be kind of fine. I also feel like there's kind of like a burgeoning or a lingering J. Scott Campbell influence that he hasn't shaken yet. I wish he'd stop trying to be J. Scott Campbell and just be Jim Lee. And when Jim Lee's drawn and kind of just being him, it's on point. Anyway, that's an ugly face. But the kids keep sitting around, and Fairchild explains, she's like, she says, I've lived a life people can only dream of. I'm walking on the moon. I'm discovering extraterrestrial life. I'm shifting through time. And Devin, who's a science nerd, he's like, man, fuck you. None of that's happened. I'm not, I've got a degree in physics. None of that shit's possible. You're a fucking liar. And he smacks his face right into the invisible cloaked spaceship that Fairchild and Lynch dropped down in on, which again, the point is to drive home the idea that Devin doesn't know what he's talking about. He's not aware of the technology, this light refracting technology that exists to kind of put Devin in his place. I've said before, I don't like Jim Lee design sense, and I was talking about costumes and monsters. That goes for vehicles. That thing is a fucking clunky, ugly hunk of shit. That should be the title of my next comic book. Clunky, ugly hunk of shit. People would buy it. But this is the moment that I was talking about, that there was some kind of like little human character moment that I actually liked. And I have always remembered this single little bit from this entire series. Fairchild's like, hey, let me show you what I can do. Like, you don't believe this stuff? She's like, watch this. So she gets up under it. And I like the dialogue. She says, bear with me for a moment. It's not that she's too heavy. It's just I'm trying to find the right leverage. And that actually is real world shit. Just because she's super strong, like, if you don't have the right grip on a thing, it's going to tip and be wonky and off balance. And I like how they kind of address that. She's like, oh, it's just a little bit. I got to get the right leverage. And then she just hoists up this fucking giant jet. She's like, there you go. Hold on. Everyone stand back. And then there's just a shot of her standing there looking hot, holding up the vehicle. I kind of like that moment. I've always remembered this scene of her picking up the jet. Something about that single scene stuck with me more than anything else in this entire series. Why? I don't know. It's the one point in this book I was like, that was kind of neat. That's kind of cool. And of course, Faraday's like, impressive, most impressive. And Devon's like, likewise, it's mind-boggling how you can fit into that little outfit. What do? Pour you into it? Of course, Devon's a fucking gross horn dog, which, that's okay. And then the sister, I think her name's Susanna. I can't remember. They don't ever fucking say her name. But she says, all I want to know is, does Max get a costume like that too? Hee hee. I'm like, oh my God, this dialogue. Anyway, back inside the house or whatever the fuck they're at, Lynch is watching the kids through the blinds, and Christine Blaze, she's like, yeah, you're always watching, you're always looking. And then I guess the Fallen here is their name, Tobruk and Brandy and Exotica. The text bubbles are letting me think that this is like a mental conversation they're having with themselves. And they're like, these children are not warriors. They suck. And it's like, I know it's been a long time since we walked the earth, but necessity is the mother of invention. We have to help this guy. We have to control him. His powers are going to do terrible things if he's not on our side. Anyway, Faraday comes back in. He's like, all right, I've decided I have two simple requests if I'm going to continue to work with you guys. And they're like, all right, what? And he's like, one, we all go together. This is my family, and I'm not going to bail on my family. I want everyone around, including you two. You guys have to learn to work together. And they're like, all right, I think I can manage that. And what is your second request? And then it flips over, and then we get, oh man, this just threw off the vibe of the comic, because this is one of the earliest ads for Danger Girl that J. Scott Campbell put together. And holy fucking shit, is this ad by itself 1,000 times more interesting than this entire comic that we're reading. Campbell knew exactly what to do, exactly the kind of comic he was making, how to put it together in a movie trailer style format. It's lighthearted, it's sexy, it's fun. There's a gun, they're packing heat, tons of turbocharged action as they leap from car to truck. There's romance, there's danger, there's a great story wrapped up in a script. And these kids think that Danger Girl is totally awesome, and then she's kicking us right in our fucking face. Bam, coming soon. This ad alone is more interesting and fun than this entire Divine Right comic. And the comic series, Danger Girl, beats Divine Right hands down 1,000 times over. But anyway, what was the other request that Max Faraday had? He's like, hey, we're all going together, and you guys got to learn to work together. The other request is that they go to Taco Hell, and they order a bunch of food. And the text, in like they're barking through an external loudspeaker. It says squawk. That'd be 8 Taco Diablos with 4 whack colas, 1 diet with 2 sides of rice, and 2 Taco Hells, extra sour cream to go, please. And then Faraday's like, and don't skimp on the extra hot sauce. So they wanted to stop and get some grub. And I'm like, okay, that kind of rings true. He's like, we all want some food. Let's stop and get some grub. You never see heroes stop to eat. And the one joke that actually kind of made me smile a little bit is they get the food and they're about to take off, and Lynch is in the front of the jet, and Christine Blaze, she's like, lighten up, Jack. Just lighten up. And then Devon, the smartass here, he's trying to hand a taco to Lynch. He's like, hey, Mr. L, this bad boy's got your name written all over it. For some reason, that works. He's got a taco, and they all got a bunch of grub. He's like, here you go, dude. This one's yours. Lynch ain't having it. I don't know why. That one little sight gag with the hand and the dialogue actually worked. I kind of had a chuckle there. And over here, Devin, being the stupid kind of comedic relief douchebag that he is, he goes up to Tobruk, the big warrior guy, and Tobruk says, "You eat this for nourishment? You may not have the heart of a warrior, Devin, but your stomach is mighty indeed." Again, that little gag, I kind of laughed at. I'm like, okay, that was kind of funny. Like, it's almost teetering on the idea of having fun. And of course, they're trying to have fun through the entire comic, but the execution of it is working very rarely. But it kind of does there. Anyway, they get going, they take off. Faraday's getting instruction on how to manipulate his energies from Exotica over here. And of course, Devin and the sister are like, holy shit, we are wrapped up in some craziness. This is rough. And then we get into how Max, being trained by this Exotica girl, how he can manifest his own realities and these powers and this stuff, and you're kind of getting like a reproduction of what the cover is going to be. I guess Jim Lee drew this panel, and he's like, hey, that should be the cover. That's kind of a boring cover, I gotta be honest. But he can manipulate his powers. I do kind of like this almost silhouette shot of the girl, the design with the pointy mask and her hair and the cloak kind of falling behind her. I like that. That looks really good. Anyway, Max can't control it. She's like, just stop worrying about it. You'll learn to control it in time. You know, we'll get there. Anyway, God, I'm trying to... Oh, yeah, right. So they arrive to the place. They're trying to go rescue his girlfriend. That's the whole point. He downloaded some of the information to his girlfriend. They got to go rescue her. I guess he had enough time to stop and get tacos. They hang out. They go to this apartment. They go inside the apartment. No one's there. It looks like the place is kind of busted up a little bit. And they turn and look. And out comes boring lizard monster number 342. Jesus Christ. These monsters are so boring. It attacks him. But the Brandy character, Dr. Strange Gambit, tackles the monster, starts getting some information out of him. And then I guess he snaps its neck. And they're like, holy shit, dude, what'd you kill him for? He was like our only link to finding out where my girlfriend is. And they're like, no, if we could get some physical contact with an item that's personal to your girlfriend, we could like track down through, I don't know, kind of like a telepathic connection to something personal. Of course, Devin, being the horn dog, is going through her drawer and getting her underwear out. And they're like, no, please. That's kind of gross and weird. Like, this isn't going to work. We need something personal that she's used. And of course, the sister, she's like, what about her keyboard? Will that connect us to her? I kind of dig that shot with the kind of the very limited background. I kind of like the drawing. I don't know, it kind of works. And again, this character design, I mean, it's simultaneously boring, but Jim Lee makes it look good. I like the little glowing energy effects around her. I like her big giant boobs and all the bare skin and the giant chain belly button piercing that she's got. That's kind of hot. But they're like, hey, holy shit. They're like, wait, is my girlfriend alive? They're like, yeah, she is alive. Absolutely. But, and he's like, well, but what? What's going on? What? Well, the bad guys have already been there and captured her and got her shackled up and captured. And so there's big, boring, giant monster design bullshit crap there. And some super hot, theoretically, girl there that's like, we got you. And we've kidnapped her. And now everyone's going to come to us because we have his girlfriend. Okay. And then we cut to a page of some villain of the comic who I think has only shown up on a few pages in one other issue. Don't care. Jim Lee's doing some designy shit with like the cloak. I feel like there's a Travis Charest-ish inspired thing going on here. But bad guys doing bad guy shit. Who fucking cares? Now, epilogue. We're back with Dominique Faust, director of the Black Arts International operation. So some bad guy, some evil girl from the Wildstorm universe that is boring, and she sees something horrible, and she's like, oh my God, this is terrible. Somebody get me the president. And it doesn't even fucking say the end. It's just like, oh, and the book's over. So this shit is not brilliant. And that's just my opinion. Again, if you love it, Mauricio, this one's for you, brother. Um, I know you like this stuff. It's just like I said, it's not embarrassingly bad like a lot of books that from like I don't know Extreme Studios, for example. It's just like okay, but it's not like engaging. It's not exciting. It's not fun. It's like a boring version of the X-Men that you don't give a shit about. And that's probably because Jim Lee's not he's not a writer. Being a writer is not his thing. And I validate that statement by saying, to my knowledge, he's never tried to write anything ever again. But I'm pretty sure he probably appreciates that he did it, he tried it, and he gave it his best effort. And for God's sakes, I'll give full credit and respect to the man for that all day. No doubt. He gave it his all and put it out there. And just so decades later, some fat internet assholes like me are going to review it and say, yeah, it kind of fucking sucks. I mean, he could do better. That's what it's all about. Putting out your best work and, making yourself vulnerable by producing work and putting it out there, and somebody's going to just shit all over it, which is what I'm doing here. But don't get me wrong. I like Jim Lee. He has given me personally more joy through his art than almost any other artist, just through the sheer kind of like amount of time he's been in existence drawing and I've been reading comics. He seems like a nice guy. He seems like a genuine dude. He seems like someone who really cares about doing good work, even if my dumbass doesn't like it. Doesn't mean he's not trying to produce the best work, and I give him full respect for that. Seems like a good guy. So, and like I've said before, I've met him once. He came to a signing and I got to meet him and say, hi, I love your work. Thank you. He signed a book. I got a picture taken with him. Neat guy. If I'm being honest, his book fucking sucks. Anyway, that's all I've got. Thank you for joining me. I really, really appreciate it. I will see you next time.